Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. Housekeeping. When this is done, if you got anything from it, we don't charge for admission. I don't have sponsors. Share this shit. That is the cost of admission. Stole that from Andy Frisella. Not scared to say it, but if anything that you get out of this gives you any type of value in your life, if you can bring anything out of it and you think that other people should hear it as well, please share this. Please get it out there. Please make sure that other people are hearing it. So our guest today.
Hang on. Sorry. We're not getting paid? That's literally the first
I'm not.
This.
I'm not.
Okay, I think I had it worked out.
Okay. But you can send an invoice.
Okay. No.
Yeah, you can send an invoice and see what fucking happens.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So I'm super excited today, everybody. You get to meet somebody that has, honest to God, inspired me and inspired what I've done ever since I met you. So first of all, just Jake Bennington, everybody. Please meet Jake. Jake, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Just to kind of get things started, you know, I've told this story a lot of times of like how I kind of started my personal growth, you know, journey, and how I started getting into, you know, different events and masterminds and speaking and all this different shit. Right. And the way that I wanted to start off today was telling you thank you, because literally and you probably don't even remember this, but at the Lake Powell event that we were at together, however many, 2-3 years ago. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was there, but like, I was kind of in the background a little bit, not as bad as I was in Mexico when you were shitting your brains out, but, and we'll get to that later, but like, I wasn't hiding as much as I did in that event. Cause I did like the first 2 days, I kind of hid in the corner and smoked cigarettes and just didn't talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. But when we came to Powell, I remember we were sitting there and we were kind of just having a little jam session one night, and you said something to me that literally changed. It probably half-ass inspired this, right? And there was a moment where I think I contributed. I said something, and you said, Eric, you stay quiet a lot and you find places to interject, right? When you feel like there's value to be given, but more people need to hear what you have to say and you don't need to hide it. And I don't know what it was, but that moment literally, like, I don't know what it was, but it was so impactful. And maybe it was the fact that you were saying that, and like, I had a ton of respect for you and what you had done and just the things that you were kind of teaching us, you know, at that time. But I took that statement, and I, honest to God, like I really ran with it. And I was like, well, fuck, if Jake thinks what I'm saying is important, then maybe other people would too. So I literally wanted to start this by saying thank you, because looking back, that statement and that moment sitting on that boat was probably an inspiration of everything that has transpired for me in the last 2.5-3 years. So thank you for that.
Wow. I didn't realize the impact or influence of that moment. Thank you. I mean, honestly, we had an awesome trip. We went over some awesome content, but we had a lot of downtime for some really good connection. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it's amazing what you've done, you know, since then. It's been so fun. You know, I've been rooting for you all along the way, and you just keep growing and you keep leaning into it, you know, and feeling the burn and embracing that. And I just like, it's so, here we are. We both have moved from the states that we were in. I was in Utah, you were in Nebraska, and now we are meeting in Houston, Texas at your house, you know, a little over 3 years later after we met. And that's wild to see how much you've been through and where you're at now in a relatively short time period.
Yeah.
And me too.
Yeah.
And that's the power of, like, you know, if you have intentional personal development that you're leaning into, I say that probably too much, leaning into, how much ground you can cover in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, 100%. That was the beginning of our relationship, and I guess and the point that I was also trying to make with what you just said is that you never know when that moment is going to be, or something that somebody is going to say to you that might move you in that direction. Right. And everybody, like, I got some text today because I'm speaking at something in Arizona, at Travis and Minky Brady's event or whatever, at Strengthen Your World. Super excited about it. But I'm going to that, and I had somebody text me today on a post that we made about, hey, buy tickets, come, see us speak, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be an amazing event. And he texts me and says, hey, is this for real? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is it worth it? Everybody's asking you, like, is it worth it? Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, well, I don't fucking know. You need to do it. And then what are you going to take out of it? But you don't know. It's kind of like knocking doors. You got to get all those fucking no's before you can get that yes that changes your life. Mm-hmm. Right. And sitting at an event or sitting in a mastermind and investing in yourself and investing the money to be able to find those connections and those relationships. We talk a lot about connections here. I never anticipated that when we first met, that 3.5 years down the road, I would consider you like a real friend. Right? I mean, and I'm assuming that you probably didn't either, as nice as you are, and you'll bullshit me and whatever. But like, there's no fucking way that you sat in this room and were like, you know what? That's the guy that I'm going to be friends with.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't really remember having a strong opinion at the time, one way or the other.
Really? Because everybody has a strong opinion of me.
Well, I like, the thorns. I like right. The people that are interesting, that have something to say, and so it's always, better dialogue. And when your dialogue is sincere, authentic, and passionate, right. It always leads to deeper connection. Because that's what the emotion Correct. That you drive yes. up in the situation leads you to, right. is the opportunity, at least. Right. If you navigate it well, to have a better connection. And so whenever I see someone who's like that, I'm down for it. Yeah.
Tell me, we were talking about it a little bit before we got started here today, but I always go towards, I obviously have a lot of people that watch that are in the recovery space, right? Mm-hmm. And any chance I get to talk about any type of recovery or addiction or anything like that, I want to hear a little bit about, and I don't know the whole story, so I might have been jumping the gun on that, but I don't know the whole story. Tell me about, we were talking about how you got into music, and I want to know how you got into music. And I mean, the fact that you were in a death metal band fucking blows my mind.
You just learned that today.
Just learned it like 4 minutes ago. Like, how in the fuck, were you the singer? Mm-hmm. That amazes me and makes me so happy, because it's just another level of depth mm-hmm. to Jake Bennington, right? You're in a death metal band and you paint shoes, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I color. Okay.
Oh, is that what it's called?
That's my medium of choice.
Color?
I don't use paint. I use, pencil and Sharpies.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to paint. I actually don't know how to paint.
Really? Mm-hmm. It's so funny that they're like so different.
They are. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm the least artsy fucking person that you'll ever meet in your life.
I don't agree with that. I think you have tattoos that are obvious art, and that but
I didn't do them.
But this is art. This is art right here, like what we're doing.
Yes, right? Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so tell me about music. Tell me about how you got into music.
So my dad. It's so funny, like the influences I've had on music. My dad, was all John Denver. Okay. And some music from like Appalachia and stuff from my mom's side.
Oh, really?
Like deep Kentucky, and he's from Ohio. And so, but a lot of old Western music is really what I grew up on. Okay. And 16 ton, all that kind of stuff. So, but I wasn't like hardcore into music. That's just kind of what we were listening to. And then, I think it would have been when I was 9 or 10 is when my cousin's big debut album came out. Got it. And so my cousin was the lead singer for Linkin Park. Right. So Chester Bennington. Yep. So when I was 9 or 10, that would have been 2009 or so. That's when Hybrid Theory came out. Yes.
like the album.
Yeah, that was like, it was a pretty transcendent album for the time in the industry, because it took, a lot of rap and it took a lot of rock and fused it together.
It was so good.
It was, I posit that today it's still one of the best workout albums out there, like in the gym. Like every song is a banger to like work out really hard to. But anyways, really, really successful. And they just like shot onto the scene, and then they were performing at, like the VMAs, and then like,
how long did they struggle before that to get?
I don't totally know. I mean, he was in
a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
It wasn't instant by any means. And
I always worry about like what the audience is, you know what I mean? Like, oh, are we, like, are we going some, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't give a fuck. This is shit I want to know. I just realize that sometimes, like when I'm doing this, that I worry too much. Like, I know I should worry about the audience, but like, at the end of the day, if I think it's interesting and they
most likely they do.
Yeah. But like, I always want to get more back story, but anyway, go on.
Me too. No, when I'm listening to podcasts, I always have like questions bubble up. I'm like, I should have dug a little bit more, like ask just a couple more things on that. That's really interesting. But you can tell for the sake of, flow and topics, they keep moving. But indulge that as much as possible for sure. So I mean, I think they had a pretty standard struggle, period. He was in another band before, and they were something different, but when they came together, it clicked, and they found tremendous success, and that really changed so much for me as far as music. I mean, I definitely didn't listen to rap,
right?
And I definitely didn't listen to rock that hard or that new.
And you grew up in a fairly religious household, yes? Or no?
I grew up LDS.
Okay,
so Mormon.
Yep. So was that a thing? Like, was that a problem? I don't know.
Actually, no.
Okay.
No, my parents are very religious, and they have a lot of faith, and they're amazing members of the church. But they're also very understanding, and they, I think they do a really good job of being balanced.
Okay.
And taking everything into account and stuff, not being judgmental. Right. They've always welcomed people into our house who are struggling. We've had a handful of people live with us in our family who were totally not doing great things in their life at the time, and needed to be taken in, and so we've always been,
they're good people.
They're very accepting. Very accepting, very supportive. And so in his music, I remember the first time I sat there and I listened to it on a Walkman, and I put it in, and I listened I had no idea what to expect. I hadn't heard anything like it yet, and so I listened to the first song. I was like, oh, okay, I'm like, have they listened to this? Or are they on the show with me? Because at the time, and I'm young, that was
because how old were you?
I went pretty hard. I was like 9 or 10.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
How much older was he than you? 10 years? 12 years?
No, he 20.
20 years?
Oh,
okay. Yeah. So he was like 30.
I guess a little bit younger than that. I don't actually remember.
Okay, I was just curious.
Let's call it 15.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe 15. Yeah, probably like 15.
So you were young. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was a kid. I was a total kid. Yeah. And I remember being like, "Whoa, this is something." And then they blew up. It was crazy. And then their follow-up album, Meteora, came out, and that like doubled down on the success. And then like suddenly all my friends and all their parents, everyone knew about them. Yeah. And they were touring, with like Metallica, Limp Bizkit.
Yep. I remember that.
Limp Bizkit.
I'm not going to lie. I was a fucking Limp Bizkit fan.
Really?
Yes. That's college time for me. Because how old are you?
I'm 32.
Oh, fuck. I always forget how goddamn young you are. So, because Limp Bizkit and all that was like my freshman year of college.
Man, what a time to be going to concerts and to be into music that was like coming out at that time. It really is like a little time capsule.
Yes.
And because you haven't had too many groups before or after be what that movement was.
No.
You know what I mean? And so Limp Bizkit, did it. You had Korn.
Yeah.
And obviously Linkin Park was tremendously successful.
Have you seen that documentary of when at the Woodstock thing caught on fire with Korn fucking shaking? Goddamn. That was crazy.
It was crazy. And I'm like, why wasn't I there? I was like, I was like 7.
Right.
But I also, I watched that and I thought to myself, like all the bands that were there, Linkin Park toured with them a ton.
Yeah.
So they missed it by probably like a year. I think that if Woodstock had been 1 year later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Then Lincoln Park would have been
there.
Perfect shoe-in for that show.
Yes.
And they would have been part of that, so I thought about that though. Cause like I've met Fred, Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst, and, Fred, well, not like we're buddies or anything. In fact, he was super not nice, but,
that's not surprising.
Yeah. I think he gives off, I think it's pretty well documented that he's not a super warm kind of guy.
Yeah.
But, so my first concert ever was, I lived in Columbus, Ohio, and they came on, I think it was called the Summer Cemeterian concert, and it was with Metallica, Limp Bizkit, Mudvayne, Deftones.
Wow.
And that's actually pretty fire lineup.
Yeah.
Like that one aged pretty well. And there's like one other person, but so that's where I met them and the Metallica guys and some things like that. But so that was the crew that really they were in a lot of conversations together and they toured a lot together.
Yeah, and shaped you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted Chester to think I was cool instantly.
Yeah, were you close?
Not really. I mean, no, not. I would say as much as you can be close to somebody in a situation like that. My dad was like way, 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 way closer.
Okay.
And I definitely have a better relationship with his son and his dad, than I had just because of accessibility. Like I was so young.
Yeah.
When am I gonna, and especially thinking about the time when they were touring and stuff, when am I gonna go, encounter him and hang out?
And the reason I asked that is because I'm curious about how his death affected you. Age-wise, you know what I mean? Because of the closeness or the whatever, right? Like, and when that happened.
So I was in Cleveland leading a pest control team for a company called Aptive. Right. And I had worked there for about 10 years.
And the first thing he says as he walks up to my house is, man, I can sell a lot of fucking pest control in this neighborhood. So
omit the F word. That is what I said. Because my first year selling ever in door-to-door was in Houston. It was
really?
Here. Yeah. Uh-huh. And so this is where I was a rookie.
Yeah.
Hit the doors for the first time.
Right.
And Houston, it's so buggy and you have a lot of trees in your neighborhood and you have a big lot between you and other people. And so to me, I'm like, bugs, but I could sell this neighborhood. So lights out.
Lights out. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is what I do. I fuck up every conversation by going down
No. Those are good. That's the color of the conversation. I've never met a tangent I did not like. So I was in Cleveland leading a team. And here's kind of the bittersweet of the situation. I found out from my friend first, so he was out in California. That's where it happens, where he lived. And I got a text from a buddy from high school. And I don't think I ever told him. He still doesn't know that he's actually the one that told me. Like he thought I would have already known. Yeah. But you know how that stuff is. It spreads so fast. Right. And so it was like within 30 minutes, like everybody knew. And so he sends me a text and he says, "Hey man, I'm so sorry to hear about Chester." And I didn't respond. I'm like, "What?" And so, I Google it and I couldn't believe it, but I could very easily believe it,
right.
All at the same
because
time.
What was the story? Like what was I don't know the whole story, like of Cliff Notes.
Well, if anyone
is there an official story?
Yeah, I mean he took his own life. He committed suicide.
Okay,
and so hung himself, right? And so that's what happened. Now, and we can talk about it. I don't really have that much to say about the controversy, and
I'm not trying to get into controversy.
There's conspiracy around his death.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, and it has to do with the majority of it has to do with, is it, Chris Cornell?
Yeah.
Okay. So, they're great friends and all that. And there's a little bit of controversy, or sorry, I should say conspiracy around his death as well. Kind of in a Jeff Epstein similar concept where they were victims of abuse and different things throughout their lives. And so, anyways, I don't even know all the details.
Interesting. Okay, no,
people have really taken it on the internet and they've gone really crazy with it.
Of course they have.
And they've linked all these different things together and how there's a pedo ring that, was about to be ousted.
Really?
And exposed.
Oh, wow. I never heard that.
And so, he didn't take his own life. It was, an Epstein kind of a situation and things like that. There's iterations of the conspiracy, but
People are fucking assholes. So,
well, and I had people who I hadn't talked to since, 15 years, since high school.
Yeah.
DM me in Facebook or Instagram and say something to the effect of, "Hey Jake, how's it going? Hey, so I have thoughts on this about your cousin." And this is like, within,
Really?
Yeah. And that's where that's the bittersweet of the situation is, he did mean a lot to a lot of people, but people think that they have a certain right to talk to you about it.
Right.
And just like kind of barge in on it with you.
Yeah. Not what I was trying to do.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No. That's not, I'm not saying that at all.
Everybody listening is like, yeah, motherfucker.
No. I'm just explaining, that's a wrinkle of kind of, the person being in the spotlight, like that. But it really did affect me actually. And, it still affects me. I think about it weekly.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. And it sounds weird to say this, but like, I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that I still think about it that often because.
How do you think about it in regards to you and your life or?
I'm still just sad about it.
Oh, okay. So genuinely just thinking about it and not, okay, I gotcha. Wow. That's a long time.
I'm sad about it for him and for his life and his sake and his family and, things like that. But I reflect on it and I am residually sad with no end in sight because I think about what it meant that somebody who clearly, objectively had endless adoration from thousands, millions of people.
Right.
And validation of his worth.
Right.
And yet he couldn't convince himself of that,
Yeah.
And so if someone in that position to receive that much ongoing, persistent love finds themselves in that conundrum, oh my gosh, what about everyday people out there living their lives? Yeah. And that's what makes me sad is I think I've kind of reconciled him for his own sake, like I'm sad about it, but I'm pretty good there. I reflect on it and I get sad in perpetuity just thinking about society.
Yeah.
And people who don't even have the love to counter, their mental state and the depression that they have, and he even succumbed to it.
Is it one of the reasons that like maybe that you became so, I mean, I remember like when we first started hanging out, like the book that you kept, like you were on the fucking moon about was like the happiness advantage, right? And things like that. I mean, do you think that kind of changed your mindset a little bit to that point of like, hey, I need to be cognizant of this. And if I can help people with this as well, obviously you're not going down this like, mental health, angle or, and that's not what I'm trying to insinuate, but I could see how that would affect you a little bit to be like, man, I need to be self-aware of this. And if I can be self-aware and help others in my life with this as well, because again, normal folk that don't have that kind of admiration, right? I mean, I that just is the first thing I thought because I made my whole company read that book.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. Like that was one of the first book club books that we used in my company when I started implementing that, was the happiness advantage. And so I don't know, that just, you seem like that you're the person now though, that is always building other people up. That's how I see Jake, is the guy that whether it's in the company that you're running or the consulting that you're doing or the team that you're leading or just the people that you're around, I see you as that person that's always building people up. And I can see how that could indirectly, obviously, or directly impact you to be like, not even knowing it, but making you become the human that you are today and the people that you're helping.
I think that there are two things there. One, the idea that, like why I resonate so much with the happiness advantage as a book is actually a separate catalyst got me to that mentality. So that happened when I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
And so I can, talk about that in a second, but in reality, the other point is back to what you said in the beginning about the impact that conversation that we had on you and Lake Powell is when I got into the consulting space, I was very nervous, and I was very self-conscious, especially as I'd go out and I would do consulting for roofing companies in the beginning, because I was so young and I didn't know their space.
Right.
And I'm trying to learn, I have a lot of experience, and
roofers
I've cut my
are tough.
teeth. Roofers are tough. And, they all have, the majority of them, gray or, hair, and like they've been in roofing as long as I've been alive.
Right.
And I'm coming in and I'm telling them, who to hire, who to fire, lifting up the hood of their business and taking apart, different aspects and telling them how to up level and big decisions to make within their company. And so that was daunting in the beginning. And, the very first trip I went out to do that, it was out in South Dakota, middle of nowhere, Rapid City, I think. Rapid City, South Dakota. Okay. Yep. And are you familiar?
Fancy town. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from Nebraska, so I know South Dakota. Yeah.
All right. It's beautiful town. Beautiful town.
I don't know if I go that far, but yeah. Go on. Yeah.
The frontier and landscape, the territory around it is very pretty. Right?
I'll be honest. I haven't even been to Rapid City. I just know where it's at.
Okay. Well, I don't have a fucking taking clue. A dump on Rapid City for no reason.
I have no idea.
So it was a layup for you?
It was just easy. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, my Rapid Cityers. Cityans? So
are they the Musketeers? I don't know why. I just assume that they're the Musketeers. Go on.
The Rapid City Musketeers.
Sounds right, doesn't it?
I guess so. Yep. The night before, I was really kind of in my head a little bit. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm going to go, like, I don't know anything about a roof except that it goes on a house. Like, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I was with Sam and I was just thinking about it, and I was keeping real quiet because I had definitely been very confident to get myself in the opportunity.
Right.
But I was nervous. And so I saw something that night, that I'm going to mess it up, but it said, I was scrolling and I saw this. It said something to the effect of, there are people out there living the life that you want to live, doing the things you want to do, who are less qualified than you, but believe in themselves more. Yeah. And I kind of flipped the order on that, but you get what, you know, the concept there. Yeah. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and it's like, quit just analyzing all the reasons why you may not be qualified for tomorrow.
Right.
And just know, you have the best intentions. You're going to do the best with what you have today, and you're going to serve these people. You're going to be sincere with them and offer value. And you just need to believe in yourself outright, right? Because there are people out here doing this exact same thing, right? Who are way less qualified than I was, but they're totally fine because they believe in themselves.
Way less.
Well, so to your point in the beginning, right? It's okay. When I started thinking about, you have all these people who do stuff on Instagram and social media, and they do little reel. I just did like my first reel 2 days ago because someone sent it to me, and I was like, oh, cool. And so I posted it.
Yeah. We just learned about reel. Well, Lexi knew about it, but I just learned about reels. I'm like, Jesus. Yeah, I know. I'm fucking,
with the times. Yeah. That's impressive.
I don't do them, but
Eric, that's a big step.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you for that.
I just learned they're supposed to be 15 secourse.
Okay. That's even a detail.
Is that correct?
Wow.
Is that correct? Yes. My best reel so far has been Tegan putting at the putt course, because all my shit that's with Tegan goes fucking fire.
Yeah.
Everything else, like, I really don't want to hear from this loud mouth fucker. But like when I bring Tegan on, every podcast I've done with her blows up.
Oh, I'm sure. It's like I've noticed the content any content I do that even has my wife a little bit in it. Always is a lot more successful, and people engage with it a lot more and
Isn't
stuff.
That crazy? Sorry, go on.
But there's this movement where people are getting their voice out more. It's easier to do it. The barrier of entry to do it's a lot lower. Yep. And so you have people who are flooding into that. And it's easy to judge and be like, this is fluff content. You're just like you just want to be an influencer to be an influencer. Right. You're not really here to in your heart of hearts serve people and add value. Yep. But that puts us in a position of, okay, like, this is the analysis I did of myself because I've started writing this book, and I start speaking in different things, and it's like, what gives me the right? Right. I had this really early on, and I still have it once in a while where it'll resurface, but it's like, at the end of the day, what gives me the right? Do I really think I have so much value and experience that people would actually want to hear something I had to say? And are they going to laugh at that? Like, Jake, oh, wow, he thinks that he's got some head on his shoulders, and so he's going to go and he deserves to, to do all this. And so you kind of look at it and you're like, man, like you bring yourself down a little bit. It's like, I'm not a Goggins. I'm not a, you know, Jordan Peterson. I'm not these.
But neither were they until they were.
True. But that's not even really my point at the end of it, is that it does not matter if you have something to say and in your heart it serves a purpose to serve. Mm-hmm. It's not only it's your responsibility to say it. And you don't need to trip yourself up of, you know, do I deserve to do this? Do I know how to do it? Do I have the platform for it? If you have value and you have a voice, it is your responsibility to share and to do it, and not, you know, keep your light under a bushel, so to speak.
Right.
And so with you,
your light under a bushel.
Yeah. There's a biblical reference there.
Yeah. That's why I missed it. Okay. Go on.
But you know, so coming back to square one with you, it's like, just, if you're being authentic and you have good intentions and you want to help and you want to serve people, then just do it. Lean into it. And don't worry about your qualifications or your credibility, because there are so many people I know right now who feel like they're just not high enough caliber or well-spoken enough or whatever to get out there and you know, and spread good into the world. We need everybody to embrace that. Right. Because then we're just left with the people who are negative and the, you know, the debutantes and the fake people out there who aren't offering actual value. Right.
Were you at the retreat where the authenticity thing started? Were you at that in Idaho when I broke my arm?
No.
Fuck. No. Okay. Yeah. Cause that was where it started, when I had to do I don't know if you've heard the story or not, but when I
know how you broke your arm. That's the story I've heard.
Everybody fucking knows that story. Yeah. But we were doing some little exercise and we had to they gave us a word in a group, and we had to take that word and research it and do like a 5-minute something on the word. Right. And somebody else in my group,
oh yes. Okay.
Got that word. I think it was Blanche. I think it was Joshua Blanche.
Bless him.
And I know, and I feel bad like looking back, and maybe it wasn't him, but I feel like it was, because I was like a bully and I was like, sorry, it's not your word. It's mine.
That's why I'm saying bless him, because I know he's so nice.
He's so nice.
He's just the nicest guy.
I'm not. And I was just like,
you steamrolled him a little bit.
I did. Yeah. And just maybe it wasn't him. And Joshua, you can tell me if it was or if it wasn't, but
Josh, I'm sorry that he did.
Yes. And I'm sorry, Josh. But that was that shift. But people ask me a lot, why and what is the podcast about? And it was interesting because, I mean, we were literally having this conversation before you got here about like, oh, we need to narrow our focus and we need to do this and we need to do that. And we do, we need to do all of those things. But I remember when I started it because of that sentiment of, I 100% believe that I have something to say, and everything that I put out is genuine. I'm not selling anything. I don't have fucking coaching to sell. I don't have, you know what I mean? I don't have a fucking university to sell to anybody. I genuinely want people to hear what I've been through, what the people that I surround myself with, like yourself and the other guests that I've had on, what they have been through, to have other people be able to see that, to go, oh, well, I can do that as well, right? Or I can do a version of that fulfills me. And I get so much reward out of that. You know, even when I go speak, right now that I'm getting like bigger speaking opportunities, which is like something that I never anticipated happening, you know, getting main stage at RoofCon, right? Like that blew my mind that Hunter actually had I'm going to say balls to do it, to be completely honest. And he's coming here in like 4 hours. And I had to have a phone call with him. And I was like, here's what I'll do, man. He's like, I'm a little nervous. And I said, here's the thing, man. I go, I will 100% knock 75% of the fucks out of my speech, but I will not change the content. I will not change the stories. I will not change my message. I will not change my content, but I will take the fucks out. Because if the fucks are what's bothering you, I did. I wrote it.
I know, but you're gonna get up there. You're gonna get fired up.
Maybe. But I'm also doing a disclaimer.
It will be fun. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
You really try to stay in the pocket with that.
Yeah.
And I'll be watching, and I'll know your body language. You're trying to, you know.
I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. But the fact that like When you get to surround yourself with people that do believe in you though, and take chances on you. And that's my, you know what I mean? Like, that's my point. Like you doing that and saying those things that you did to me. And I knew that if I ever called you and said, hey, will you help me with this? That I knew that you would, right? Yeah. The friendship that I made with Sam, you know, in the same way. Right. And the friendship that I made with Hunter, you know, and just all these other people that are inside, outside of our industry, and other people don't always get to have those opportunities. And I feel like when I started this, I always said that it was going to be a comfortable place to have uncomfortable conversations. We love to have empathetic conversations, right? Whether it's talking about, you know, drug abuse or, you know, alcoholism, or fucking Heather Hitchcock was on and was talking about suicide awareness and mental health, you know, things that she had been through in her past, and having those open dialogue conversations. I don't feel like people have sometimes the resources, right, to put themselves into some of those circles that they feel like they need to be in to have those conversations. And that was what I saw this as an opportunity to people to be able to have like a little glimpse into what that really looks like. And then maybe hopefully inspire them to say, you know what, it is worth it. Right. Because what's the one question whenever anybody asks to go do a leadership retreat or, you know, get into a group or whatever, is like, the first thing you think about is, well, it's 10 grand. What's the ROI?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely a common.
It is, right? And it's kind of hard. I'm sure you have a very great objection, you know, overcoming statement to say on that. I don't. I just say, don't be a pussy. Go and you'll get something out of it. That's why I'm probably not the best salesman in the room. But
I mean, to that, I would say, you know, the majority of mastermind groups and things like that really mean well, and they're trying to provide a lot of value.
And they're not all good.
They're not all good, no. But I would say the majority of them do enough to be worth the price. There are very, you know, few that are just like totally botching it and ripping people off. You know, I think the majority of the ones that you hear about that do stick around long enough, where obviously the proof of concept's there and value is there, like, you know, the price may be steep and vary, but it's going to be good pretty much. But what I'm going to say though is I realized that it's more of like, if someone says, is it worth it? What I would say is, well, where are you at in your life right now? And if it's going to be worth it, will really come down to the timing for that person. Mm-hmm. Are they in the right place mentally and emotionally to be receptive, to be open, to be hungry and searching for content? Because if you are, then that's like the happiness advantage, right? That's where you put like a filter on, and those are the glasses you see everywhere. Right. And so if you're tilted towards, you know, improvement and opportunity and dialogue and connection, you're going to see it more often. Right. And if you don't, so when people say, is it worth it? I'm like, well, where are you at? You know? And if you're in a good mental, emotional place, there's so much ownership that people need to take about getting into groups like that. Mm-hmm. Personal ownership, where it's a lot more about them and how they are arriving to the event and the group than it is about the group and what the content that they have. Does that make sense?
It does. The only thing it's not even a disagreement, but I don't know if like I even ever went in with the right mentality, right? I needed to be, it's just like rehab. I didn't want to go to fucking rehab, but I did. And then while I was there, I had an epiphany and my mindset changed and my life changed. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was kind of the same thing with like the first group that I joined was it wasn't that I didn't want to be there, but I was definitely there for maybe the wrong reasons. I thought I was going there to learn business tricks and, you know what I mean? Things like that. Mm-hmm. And then a couple days in went, oh, it's so much more. And I was able to have that moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you're waiting for that moment before you move and do something, you're going to miss out on a lot. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, were you ready to have a kid when you had your first kid? I mean, congratulations if you were, but like, I mean, I waited till I was 36 years old and actually had some money, and I still didn't think I was fucking ready to have that kind of response. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're ever ready for anything. Mm-hmm. So my only caveat to that would be, just because you don't think that you're ready doesn't mean that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We're in alignment. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Let me clarify.
I also just like to argue.
No, good. It's good. Well, because that's how you really refine your opinion, right? Is you round it out and you have someone sand down the rough corners with you. So
good at analogies. God damn, he's good at analogies. Fuck, he's good. Yeah.
But to explain a little bit more of what I meant, because of course you have people like a rehab scenario, right? Who it's the last thing they probably want to do. They're being forced in, against the will almost sometimes. And so, just because you're not there today and you're totally ready to go and like broken down and like humbled and like I'm ready to be an open receptacle to this experience. That's not what I'm saying. I mainly wanted to communicate that the timing needs to be right, where either you are that or you are dormantly that and you need it in your life.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
I do.
With that. So there are people maybe like you who showed up to Mexico and dormantly you needed it and you were ready. You just needed the catalyst, you needed the spark, you needed the space to be created and you needed the right people to interact with you. But the greater point was simply when people look at masterminds, they put all the responsibility on the group, the content, and the speakers. And I really was just trying to say, they need to take more ownership and say, if I'm going to show up, I'm the one truly responsible with making this worth it.
Correct.
Right? If I'm taking notes, if I have an action plan on how to implement the things that I'm learning, the things that I like, am I talking to people? Am I networking? Am I paying attention? Am I good enough sleep so I can sit there and take a trillion notes the next day? Like, am I really in a place and am I taking ownership of what I'm going to get out of it? Because that doesn't happen as often. It's always the breakdown, like you said. Well, who's there? And like what networking opportunities are there? Like who's going to speak on what? Well, that doesn't move the needle in my business. So I don't know if this is the right crew. And I get those things. You don't want to just join a group to join a group.
Correct.
And not vet it and not think that it's relevant to you and things. Of course, but consider all those things as, your base is covered. You really need to say now to get 10K worth out of it, I think like 2K is like dependent on the group that's putting it together. The 8K is really going to come down to me coming in and trying to make the most of it. Anyways, just a side thought on that.
It just made me remember, and I wanted to touch on this. How are you doing health-wise? Because it made me think back to that trip in Mexico and how fucking miserable you were. I didn't even know you. And I'm like, what's up with the skinny guy that's shitting everywhere? Right? Because you were in badass shape.
My legacy.
Dude, you were in bad shape.
I was in bad shape.
But like you're this athlete. You know what I mean? But you're active and do a lot of shit. And like you were talking earlier about doing an ultra, right? So like how is that? What have you been doing to like, because I guess tell everybody, you've Crohn's, right? Is that what it is? And that never goes away.
No.
Correct? Right? You're always treating it, dealing with it, whatever, right? So what do you do?
So I was originally diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is a close cousin to Crohn's disease. Basically, UC stays concentrated, isolated in one spot. Crohn's is free to move and grow and take over your system. And so it's more serious, it's more severe, and I have severe Crohn's. So I was misdiagnosed originally.
Cool.
And I rode that diagnosis out for a while, which, it's not the end of the world. They're pretty similar. But I was given the wrong information on how to deal with it. They gave me some dietary info and stuff like that. But they told me to take these pills, 4 pills a day, if I'm having a flare up, if I'm starting to feel some pain and I'm starting to feel, and that's how I reel it in.
Got it.
But with it being Crohn's and just what I needed to be doing anyways, I should have been taking that every day, always, for the rest of my life, no matter what.
So it was always Crohn's. It wasn't that and developed into Crohn's.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So I wasn't taking my medicine except for once in a while when it would hurt, which wasn't that often. Well, that whole time, my Crohn's was just slowly growing and taking over my system. So it, there was a moment I was bitter about that, like right in the diagnosis phase. But that's reality. So that's what happened. It feels like it could have been prevented. Maybe that took years off my life. I don't know. It's hard to know.
Right.
But eventually I had a flare up so bad that I lost tons of weight. I weighed around 192 or so. And that's the biggest I ever gotten. I was, glorious dad bod phase. I had really I had no.
When was that? You weighed 192.
What's that?
When did you weigh 192?
When were we in Mexico?
3.5 years ago.
Well, what time of the year? What month?
March.
So it would have been 3 months before that.
No shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I lost 60 pounds in 3-4 months.
Ooh. And
it was just falling off of me daily, And I mean, I was bleeding it out to be, gross, but that was the situation, just straight bleeding it right out of my butt. So it was terrible, but yeah, so I had that flare up happen. It totally rocked me.
Use that as a static image though of Jake that says bleeding it right out of my butt. All right, go on.
I want, pick any of these.
Yes, any of those.
All right. Bleeding out of my butt. So yeah, I, what happens during a flare up, by the way, Crohn's is an autoimmune disease.
Right.
My body is essentially attacking itself and I have no immune system because of that. So I'm very immunocompromised. And during a flare up, everything gets really inflamed in my digestive tract. And I have about 200-300 really, really small ulcers that are dormant at all times,
right.
where they're inflamed and they're pissed off, and they were all pissed off and I couldn't calm it down. And you go past the mark where there's no coming back. You need
right.
a hospital to really, take care of you and hardcore meds. And that's where I was. So I lost all this weight because my body couldn't absorb nutrients. And so it ended up being in 4.5, almost 5 months straight, I only had diarrhea. And I'm talking 10, 15 times a day, every day for almost half a year.
Oh
yeah. I mean, it was brutal. It took a toll for sure. Yeah. You got to have double ply.
And you were in the heart of it in Mexico, correct?
Yeah. So in Mexico was right at the very end.
It was at the very end.
Well, of the lowest weight I had been since high school. I was down at 131, 132 in Mexico.
Yeah.
I had zero business being there.
Correct.
I should not have been there.
No.
Legitimately, it was an irresponsible risk to my health.
Yeah.
But that was my first big flare up like that. I didn't totally understand the implications. And I had paid, good money at that point to, go out there.
You came out on the horses too, didn't you?
No, I didn't do the horses.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you went out on the horses.
No,
okay.
I did not do the horses.
Okay. All right. I remember wrong.
I just stayed home and
that would have been
I laid
bad.
and looked at the ceiling. I think I cried. I'm actually serious.
I believe you.
So I went, but on the flight there, I had a layover, and I was in the airport, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, what am I doing? I can't even. It was this close to me being cancel the flight. I'm taking the flight back.
Right.
I cannot do this. In my chair the whole time, I was just suffering. It's so painful. It feels like there's just a dagger twisted deep in your intestines, and it's just you feel it fluctuate all day. When it comes on, I can't talk. I can't think. I have to literally just brace, and I have to just endure it, and then it'll pass, and it's just without warning all day long. And so I was in that a situation coming down to Mexico of all places,
right?
Puerto Vallarta. And I suffered a lot during that trip. We had a private chef, and she was making amazing food, and I had none of it. They were trying to do steamed veggies for me on the side. Learned later that was the worst thing I could have done. So Lindsay went to the grocery store and got me packets of unsweetened applesauce. And it was kid applesauce. And that's the only thing I really ate while I was there. Water and unsweetened applesauce. And I think I had some bananas here and there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So everyone would we're having a content session.
Yeah.
Everyone would get together on the couch. I was always the last one there.
Yes.
Because I could only do 2 steps at a time.
Right.
Right. And so it took me forever to get down the stairs, get over the, looking back at it, it's why on earth that happened. But I'm so glad I did do it.
Yeah.
And if I would go back, it's hard to say if I'd change it or not, but I got to meet you. I got to meet Steven. I got to meet Josie, who I now work with every single day of my life.
Right.
And Sam and Jonah. And I worked with Sam for, a long time. So many things came for me valuing my personal development, maybe irresponsibly as a priority above my physical health, but it was such a priority. It pushed me to go, and it did set me on a completely different path than I would be on today.
Because you don't know when those opportunities are going to present themselves.
No, I mean, I never would have gotten.
You just don't know.
For me here today, I was in pest control for 10 years, right? And so I've knocked 150,000 doors.
So you didn't know anybody when you came to that? You were there just like I was?
Yes. I didn't know anybody. Nobody. I met Jonah when I opened the door and like walked into the property. Like I didn't know anyone there.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you knew Sam.
I had like 2 combos with Sam.
Oh, so as much as I did.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was totally cold turkey coming into that. Yeah.
That's so funny. It's so funny how you remember things differently. You know what I mean? Like, I guess just looking back, I just assumed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you guys knew each other just because you were in the same industries and the same, you know what I mean? Like doing a lot of the same things. That's crazy. But I mean, amazing how one event though that can change.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I was isolated in my pest control world.
Right.
And I was heavy into recruiting and recruited like hundreds of reps, you know, and knocked 1 trillion doors, led teams and like hardcore in that scene. But getting into that led me to have a closer relationship with Sam.
Yep.
I started consulting with him.
Yep.
Then he brought me in and we ran the company together and then consulted tons of companies and ran DDDCon and the circle, the group that I had joined, I then ran with him at the next event. Right. So it all happened really fast, but that's what exposed me to solar and roofing. Right. I would never have encountered roofing if it was not for that. Straight up. Sure. My paths and roofing would have never collided. Right. But then now you fast forward 3 years after that, and I've moved to Texas as a CRO of a roofing company. That never would. Title. What's that mean? Chief Revenue Officer. It means to go make all the fucking money. I guess. Yeah. Yes, I should find out. Yeah, you should. That's a great title, though. I haven't asked yet. Yeah, thanks, Josie. Good time. Yeah, it's like a quasi title, basically like president of sales, but it does encompass a lot more than that. And I have definitely taken it to mean a lot more than that with what I own in it. And you love it. I love it. I mean, it's so challenging, and there's so much about what I was doing that is transitive directly into the roofing space. Sure, and that was my bread and butter in all my consulting experience. That's very different though, coming in on a consulting 1, 2, maybe a 3-day deal and then leaving again. And being in it, the trenches day in and day out in roofing, it's like a completely different experience. And I even said this to Sam last time I saw him a little bit ago. I'm like, dude, now that I'm in the space, there's even some advice that I gave earlier on that I would take back. Right. And if I go back, I'd say something different. Right. Because there are nuances and there really are things that you cannot appreciate a certain way until you're in it, day in and day out, and not just. Did you ever have the moment where you understood when, because Sam would always give people shit, and probably you too, when like he'd sit in something and go, "How many reps do you have?" And it'd be like, I don't know, like 8.5, or you know what I mean? Like, and roofing just seems to be a little bit different in that world, right? It's not pest control, it's not summer sales, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not alarms, it's not whatever. It is kind of a different. I know there's going to be disagreement here, but it is kind of a little bit of a different sales, not a different sales process, right? Like the process needs to be the process, but the culture maybe. Does it feel like that, or are you taking? I have so many opinions on this. We could do 3 podcasts about this. Okay, but they are very different ecosystems. That's what I was getting at. Yeah. Right. And I feel like that goes into I feel like though that sometimes when people are consulting on it that weren't in the space, that wasn't heard. For sure. Absolutely. Agree? Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think that made a lot of a disconnect with people because they're like, it's not the fucking same. Like it is different. Like we need to be able to understand that it is different a little bit. Like the people are different. The salespeople are different. They're generally they're older. Unless you're running canvassing teams, and things like that. Yeah, and that's where I feel like my value as a consultant today is exponentially more valuable than it was 6 months ago. Yeah. There is a bridge that needs to happen. Yeah. The hardcore door-to-door mecca people out in Utah need to understand like roofing is just innately different, and you can't just impose your standards in the way that you think it needs to be run directly onto them. It's just not gonna. It's a square in a whole pet or whatever, right? Yeah. And so you got to understand and come to them. And then the roofing side needs to have a good bridge, a good navigator and a consultant who can show them the bits and pieces of the world over here that can amplify their business without overwhelming them or having them just, shut it down. right?
Do you think more roofing companies should be running like more closer setter models or setter closer models? I mean, so that you can tap into that skill set, right? Or no?
I can't answer that. This is what I'll say, okay, is I don't want this to sound like an indictment on the roofing community or industry, because it is my industry now.
Yeah.
And I am passionate first and foremost about up-leveling this industry, providing value and service to these people, right?
Good disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, really, but I want people to know that I'm so sincere in that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed there's such an opportunity to help up-level the way everyone's doing business, the way that they train, the way that they hire, the way that they do sell, the technology, the workflow, like all of it deserves to go up. And it's only going to help these hardworking people in this space earn more money and serve more people and do a better job of it, right? And have a better customer experience. That is something that is duly needed for evolution right now.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
And so being passionate about that, I want everyone to understand my heart. There is a lack of ambition in the roofing space. And I don't think it's because people have decided to not have ambition. I think that it is passed down through genealogy in the industry, right? And so you have roofing owners and companies who are all used to operating in their backyard. And so they're a content. They flirt between being content and complacent.
Yep.
Right. And it's a dangerous walk back and forth. You want to feel fulfilled in your life and not feel like you're always missing something. You're never satisfied. You need to be content. Roofers are generally good at that. Sometimes they're complacent though.
Yep.
And so they don't strive for more and to create a better life for themselves and to achieve more in their ceiling. Right. And so you have guys who they'll go work storm season, and then they'll take a break, go hunting or fishing for 8 months.
Are you talking about sales guys or owners?
Sales guys, but most owners are sales guys.
True.
That's what I've noticed too, right? Is if you really break it down, like you have a couple of really successful roofing companies who their owners have risen above.
So let me jump in on that, because my thought behind that is a lot of owners are scared to jump into, because to your point of working in your backyard, right? I think the liability of production is a scary thing to move, right? When you have to go find and outsource and find new crews in different areas that are then going to be managed by some other new team, right? That liability on roofing tends to be so high compared to other industries. I know that was always my biggest hurdle that I had to jump over, was worrying about that liability of crews. If somebody falls through a fucking roof, you know what I mean? Just all of that. And I think that's part of the, I can't think of the fucking word, but that's part
conundrum.
Of the conundrum. That's a good one. Yep. I like that. But that's part of the conundrum of moving forward and scaling. And I think that the companies that truly learn how to scale and do that and build bigger teams and get out of their comfort zone are the ones that are able to figure out that production piece. Because anybody can fucking sell, man, right? Like you can build fucking teams out of your ass and go sell. But I've met people that have outsold a company to where they closed because of the fucking sales guy, right? Because of the sales team that they brought in and they couldn't produce it. Right. And there's such a, like all these solar guys that blow up and they're like, I don't know, 100 million. And I'm like, you're a fucking sales org and you kick everything and you don't give a fuck about what happens after you sell the deal and kick it over. Where in roofing, we don't really have sales orgs. So there are some, you know what I mean, that travel around and whatever, but like the company itself is not.
They are the fulfillment arm.
It's a different thing. And it gets a little scary. And I think that if that piece can get figured out, oh, maybe I just came up with a new thing. But if that piece can get figured out of how to help companies scale on the production side without the fear of the liability, or lessen, you're always going to have the fear of the liability, but like if you can lessen that fear of the liability, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Just from a guy that's been doing it for a long time, you know what I mean? And have went into different markets and have done some different things, but I haven't scaled as much as maybe I could have. And that's the reason that I haven't. right? And that's sometimes why I will feel less than, because I'll have buddies about, oh, just went into there. And I'm like, how are we serving them? You know what I mean? Like, because I worry about the production arm. Like, I know we can go in, I can put a team together and we can go sell our asses off. But then fulfilling it, it's just with roofs, it's so, I mean, you're tearing shit off a roof and you're fucking stuff up. You know what I mean? Like, you better be prepared to fix your fuck ups. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's a new business for somebody. We can figure that out and start consulting on that.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
So, and I want to add another asterisk to what I said about the ambition part. I don't want that to rub anyone the wrong way.
No.
And
I understood what you meant though.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. Because there are several reasons why you have these roofing companies and owners, fluctuating between being content and being complacent.
Yep.
Some of it is fear, right? So let me just be content, right?
Yep.
Or let me just be complacent. They don't know how to expand operationally. They don't have the business acumen to navigate that confidently.
Yep.
And they feel like by trying to grow, I'm marching to my own doom.
Yep.
And I'm gonna ruin this thing. It's gonna be over.
Yep.
I especially, if you've been running it for a really long time, it's like almost as if the more time that goes on that you haven't tried to expand, you're less likely to do it.
Correct.
Because you're not going to keep guarding what you have, and you're that much more nervous about ruining it. But you also have people who don't know what there is to really have goals for and aspire to too.
Correct.
You know what I mean? There's
Yes.
not enough voices in the roofing community
Yep.
that are really championing, showing like, hey, this is what it's like to excel at a crazy high level in the roofing space and what it does for your life. And this is, a company that's done it. Like, everyone stays pretty closed down to the backyard. And so they don't encounter each other enough. They don't collaborate enough.
Yep.
And so because of that, you have reduced goals and standards.
Yep.
Right? Competition and visibility with that, it only serves the space. And so the tighter the community can be, that way will help drive all of that. And then you just have lack of competency because of the owner part.
Yeah.
Meaning the barrier of entry in a lot of states is relatively low.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Now, if you're in Florida or California,
Florida,
like there's some things.
Those are like the two states.
I mean, okay, we're here in Texas. I go file an LLC, today, tomorrow I'm out cranking.
Do you even need to do that?
I mean, technically.
I don't even think you do. Don't even think you do.
I'm thinking for taxes, but technically no, right?
Yeah.
And you go slap, I could go myself,
Yes.
go put the roof on.
Yep.
So that is a pro and a con. I think ultimately it's a bigger con than it is a pro, but there's a whole heated debate people want to have about that. I get that. We don't need to go into that. But ultimately you have a lot of guys who were really talented sales reps.
Yep.
And they figured out how to get a pipeline, get it going, and now they have a robust book of business, and they look at it and they say, I want the full rip, right?
Right.
And so even though they're not a business person, they've never taken a business class, they think they understand the ins and outs of running the business and standing it up. They're like, I know the same crews. I know this guy and this guy.
Right.
Like, I have their phone number too.
Right.
I know who you get the material from. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care about the bells and whistles you offer with the tech and whatever you're doing, and to, have the value exchange be worth it for me.
Nope.
I'll take the full rip. Right. Which is, I get it, but it leads to this influx of incompetency where people then do drown themselves. They don't offer good customer experience.
Correct.
And they bog themselves down. So it's like, would you rather have, give up a certain percentage in your commission, right? The light just go out on us.
Yep.
Not like it's more dramatic on you though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Lost the fucking light again. Happened one other time in our history of doing the podcast. Did it unplug? That is some fucking classy shit we got going on.
It just randomly unplugged?
It was a ghost.
Okay.
Yeah, we have ghosts here.
It's 'tis the season.
There's a lot of cool shit going on. I hear the water guys outside turning the water back on because I don't pay my fucking bills, and I came home and couldn't take a shit because the water was off. So, like, that was very upsetting.
That's the first thing he said to me when I walked in. I
told you I was going to take a shower before you came. Nope. Like,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
It is.
I'm paying the price.
You are. Everybody is. Like, it was very. So, yeah, like, disclaimer, I didn't not pay my fucking bill on purpose. Apparently, in Texas, they combine fucking internet, water, electricity, everything into one goddamn company, which is insane to me. And if you don't check every little box on your account for the auto pay, it doesn't fucking pay. So I got lights on because the electricity was paid, but the water was off. So Eric couldn't take a shower or take a shit when he came home. So that's embarrassing.
I don't know, Eric. You're kind of over explaining, and I feel like
Am I?
I feel like at this point you're actually suspicious, and
That's fair.
I feel. Do you have Venmo? I
need a loan.
Eric, this isn't.
I need a loan.
Okay, that's fine.
Like short term.
Yeah,
short term.
Okay,
I'll figure some shit out.
We can talk about that off air.
Okay,
but a man should flush.
Yeah, a couple
he should
points.
be able to flush in his own home.
I would think so. Yeah. The only thing I asked that lady, I always use my kid as an excuse, and I'm like, could I have water on before my fucking kid comes home?
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
All right. So here's thank you. We don't talk enough about business on here because generally that's just not the direction that it goes. I almost wanted to say, Lexi, like, I think it'd actually be really good to cut this up almost into like two little segments, two sections where like the work stuff is like its own entity, because I think that'll be really good for people that'll like understand, and you know what I mean? And because they might not stick around long enough to get the nuggets out of the end that are really important. So this might get cut up into 2 episodes. But that being said, you can put this wherever you want it. But whenever we end an episode, I always know that there's something that I forgot to ask about or I forgot to talk about. And I always want to give the guests like the last 3 minutes to literally bring something to the table, either that we touched on and we didn't go in depth enough about it, or something that you were sitting there going, fucking ask me this, asshole. And then I didn't do that. So I'm leaving this to you now. Because we've went for like an hour and 15 minutes, which is like third longest podcast that we've done.
Oh, dang. Let's go for a record, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, that was 3 hours with Pate.
Here we go.
Here we go. And we're starting.
Hunter
Get ready to start changing the batteries.
Yeah.
Okay.
I purposely don't try and prepare.
Yeah, me too. Clearly.
So, I don't like have an agenda or something I would super want to say.
Oh, your book. Talk about your book and the title.
The title is Consistency Over Intensity.
Yeah.
I guess I can leave with a little snapshot on that principle.
Please.
I mean, it's because
I put it on Yetis, so like it impacted me that much.
I am so enthused that it has made it to a Yeti. So when all this Crohn stuff happened, I ended up coming back from when you met me in Mexico, and I came back, I got good health, and I figured it out, and I actually went to have some of the best health I've had in my adult life on the opposite end of that.
Right.
And so sometimes, life backs you into a corner because you're not willing to take yourself there in the first place, right? And the truth was, I was doing really well in business, but maybe I wasn't as involved in my relationship as I needed to be, or I definitely didn't have good physical habits and things like that. Wasn't working out. I was really neglecting that equity of life. And so, life kind of watches, and it's like, if you're not willing to take yourself there, like, I'm going to force your hand. And it did. And so it backed me into a corner, and I was forced to evolve. It was like die or evolve.
Right.
And, I felt like I did a pretty good job of that. And so that's where I started taking health real serious and diversifying what I really put my time and energy into and what really mattered in life. Right. So it's amazing to me that the best health I've had in my adult life was within the same calendar year of the worst health I've had of my entire life.
Crazy.
Right. And so that's the power of, a setback being a come up, you know, and you don't bounce back, you bounce forward. And if you choose to let it, right, and you embrace it for what it can be, and that's what it did. So, but I had another flare up. The whole irony of this is that I had this like transformative year, and I'm like living my best life.
Yeah.
And I feel like alive, and there's light in my eyes and everything. And then I go to Door to Door Con, and I get on the main stage, and I talk only about my whole experience with that and the consistency over intensity principle, which I'll break down in a sec. And then a week later, I was in the hospital. The irony of it, man, like I missed Ed Milet because I got down off after speaking. He was like right after me, or like I think so. And I went to it was Tim Grover. I missed them both, but it was Tim Grover right then, because I went and I had to run to the bathroom, and I had just gone off stage talking about the full circle and having moved on, right? And I literally, like, I almost just cried in the bathroom at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake, because I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I knew it's a very distinct feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's happening. It's happening again. Are you kidding me? And then I'm hearing Tim Grover just like yell. Did you see him that year? And he came out like, you want Tim Grover?
Yeah.
Like, so he's getting everyone worked up. And I was just sitting there like, I cannot believe I'm about to run it back like this. And a week later, I was in the hospital and I almost died. I literally almost died in the hospital. And my wife was due with her second kid 10 days after that.
Ugh.
And so
I remember that. It's a thought that counts. I literally almost got onto a plane and flew out there to see you. And then I thought it would be inappropriate and weird. But like, I was so worried.
That's very kind.
I remember that. Like, I remember that vividly now. Like, I remember that moment in time, but go on.
Yeah. I mean, I had to be wheeled, into the hospital, whole 9 yards. And there was anyway, so I did come back from that, and I realized that there was even more I needed to learn about the process and evolving into the next iteration, a better form of myself and, mentality and everything after that. But what pieced me back together was the principle of consistency over intensity. And that's what I'm writing the book about. That's what the title will be. Mm-hmm. Right. And so after Mexico, I went and led a team out in Orange County, California of like 25, 30 guys or something like that. And I had to go to the gym because I was feeling depressed. I'm like, I've only been taking losses for months. Let me do something about this. I went to the gym and I thought to myself, I'm just going to lift the bar and like warm up and do some like probably 10 reps of just the bar, kind of feel where I'm at. And I laid down and I put the bar down on the bench and I put it up. I couldn't get it up one time. I failed halfway up with just the bar, which is 45 pounds. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, my daughter right now she's approaching that weight, so I couldn't even to put that in perspective, couldn't lift my daughter up. Right. And so my wife was there and she had to put the bar back on the bench. And I sat up and in the middle of that gym in Lake Forest, California, I bawled my eyes out. And I just couldn't stop crying because I knew how far I had fallen with my health, but I didn't realize, how bad it really was. And so I had to completely adjust the goalposts on what I viewed success being and effort as meaning, right? You want to get caught up on the results orientation of personal development where, I can run 5 miles. Now I can run 10. Now I can run 20, or I can run them in X pace, or I can bench X amount of weight. Like those are good drivers and KPIs, which are important in business and in life to gauge where you're at and to, know where progress is. But to have that be where you truly hang your hat on and like that's what you're about is a misalignment. And it will undermine you at some point. It will fail you because it's very all or nothing. If the results are gone, it's like, oof, that's rough. So for me, I had to learn how to be process oriented in my life. And so now it wasn't, what am I doing at the gym? It's that I am making it a priority and a characteristic of mine to be at the gym. Right. That's what matters. Right. And so I would show up and I do the dumbbells, literally 5-pound dumbbells 3 times, put them down and walk out. I'd show up, I'd get on the treadmill.
It took more effort to get there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But the power is intention.
Correct.
Right? And that's what you need to be collecting is where are the breadcrumbs that I really mean this. Because if you demonstrate long enough that you really do want a characteristic and you want it to not just be a phase, you want it to be part of who you are, you have to collect breadcrumbs for a long time before your life finally says, all right, I believe you. I wasn't so sure. You like phases, Right. We'll see. But it's like, it goes on long enough. Suddenly the world, the universe conspires to help you. And now where your body and your mind was fighting it, now it endorses you and it consecrates your action. And it's like, okay, I'm on board with you. Like, I'm not going to be a liability, to you anymore. I'm going to be an asset, right? You can count on me as your mind to keep you, in this lane. And so I would do all this ridiculous stuff at the gym for a while. And I know I looked like a psychopath to everybody there because they're like this dude's lean. Like, why is he, but I'd get in the treadmill for like literally 1 minute, the slowest pace and go back. Right. And I did that day in and day out. And I had to fight it feeling stupid. I had to fight it feeling ridiculous.
How long?
Oh, I mean, at that level, at least a month and a half. Oh, yeah.
That's a long time.
It's a long time to get up early in the morning before my morning meeting where I ran the team meeting and go make that effort and that intention, right? For sure. With no results. And
none.
Yeah, that's what's tough. People underestimate, like when you're in the exponential growth period of like working out or things, results are there, you're losing weight or you look stronger or you can feel strong. Like that propels you a lot.
Sure.
So what is really impressive about people who work out are the ones who've gone through that exponential phase and they're now in the maintenance phase. Maintenance, there is no, you look in the gym, you're like, oh, wow, that's noticeably better one way or the other from before, right? It's like the tiniest of margins that you can notice.
I think it's a lot of the reason why a lot of people will stop for a while
Yeah.
So that they go back and they revert a little bit to have the motivation to start over.
100% because they were too results oriented.
Right.
And the results go away.
I've done it.
And so the motivation dies right off because you're not having the backfield validation to keep your, you wanting to do it. Anyway, so slowly but surely, I got a little stronger. I got a little faster. I got a little more health. And by the end of the summer, I was actually in great shape. I mean, it was crazy. It was like, bam, you know, I couldn't believe it. And I went out to visit one of my teams in Long Island, New York, and they were, the guys were like, hey, let's go to the gym this morning. Like, you're in town. Let's do it. I'm like, all right, we go. And they're like, we're maxing out on bench today. I'm like, of course you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my luck. All right, whatever. Like, I haven't maxed out. I hit a PR that day that I never hit my entire life, even because I was a wrestling coach, wrestled in high school.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a stranger to working out.
Right.
And that was the strongest I ever was in my life.
Wow.
Was that day. And that was only 4 months after the weakest I'd been in my life.
Wow.
So just, again, thinking about how I never would have gotten there if I had been results oriented.
Right.
That would have died. That would kill me long ago. But because I was saying I'm here for the higher purpose,
right?
Because it's the right thing to do. I'm honoring my body. I'm honoring my potential and the life that I want with my kids, further on. Because it would beat down in my head constantly. I don't have, you can't give your life more time. And that feels very real to me, right? But you can give your time more life.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, if I don't do what I need to do every day and be consistent, then I'm spitting on that, basically, So I chose consistency over intensity. And the trick is that consistency over a long enough period of time, it always ends in intensity.
Yeah.
But you can't put the cart before the horse. So that's the book. It's that, but on steroids, talking about how that principle applies to business, to physical fitness, and and the crossover and overlap between those two worlds.
I will read it, and my company will read it.
Better.
When is it coming out?
Oh gosh, the irony of this situation is the thing that I've struggled with the most with consistency is writing this book.
Sure.
I have bigger priorities.
Yeah.
So I've made a lot of steam on it, but I don't know how to answer that question.
Gotcha.
Next year.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
2023.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
I don't have an actual answer.
Awesome. Jake, thank you.
Eric.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for your inspiration in the last however many years. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for coming all the way down here to spend time with me today in my house with no water. Thank you.
I took the one last flush.
You did. You took the last flush.
And that was very kind of you.
Yeah. I'm a giver.
I walked in, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom right now. He's like, okay, situation.
We need to pick the right toilet that still has a flush left.
One flush left. Give it to me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving people the value that you have and the insight and the knowledge that you do, and never stop being you, and never, please, because the world needs more Jake. The world needs more Jakes, but they need more of this one. So thank you very much for being here.
Just not ones from State Farm.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Thank you for being here. And remember, everybody, be authentic or get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipes.